What's up, Gromies? Welcome to a special episode of AROYA Office Hours. Today we got a pretty awesome setup for you. We've got a special guest, Mo Korched, here with us. As well, we're joined by Brad Wood. He's our Chief Customer Officer here at Adium. And we're on site today here in LA in AJ's Flower Co. And we're talking with Mo because he's one of the more interesting people we get to talk with on a regular basis. He is a cultivator managing 14 different sites across the country and is using our system to make sure he's able to keep on top of hundreds of different rooms all at the same time. Mo, give us a little bit of background on yourself, who you are, how you got into the industry, and where we find ourselves today at AJ's.
Sure. So my name is Mo. I've been working in the industry since about 2019. I started with a company called the Whipple Effect, and partner Jack Whipple got into the game. He taught me a lot about the industry and, crop steering, and, a lot of the guys that were leading the industry and still leading the industry taught me a lot of the ropes. So still, lots of thanks to those guys for teaching me the ways. And started off small at a smaller double stack facility in East LA, and over time, the coolest thing about it is when I started, I really learned with AROYA. I didn't really know how to grow unless I had data in order to start growing. So, when I first started getting into this, being able to have graphical data, it almost seemed like a video game to me, where I could see like, this is the set points, here are your guides, and this is where you want to go to, and be able to, manage the facility, the people, in order to get, those set points and guidelines to be able to, see results. And then, after doing it thousands of times, you start, seeing what those graphs look like with plants, and then you start correlating those two things, and you're noticing that, okay, if I do, my graphs look like this, my plants will look like this. And I think just lots and lots of practice with graphs, data, analyzing data, and then seeing it visually in a room and seeing, how the plants are representing what you see on the graphs. Just, fell in love with it, and just still in love with it. It's fun. It's like a daily video game.
I think you're not giving yourself justice. So your background, you did software development, right? Previously?
Yeah, so I definitely have some software development background in my early days. And so, I'm also passionate about software for sure. So, combining both worlds of, and honestly, like, I'm a weirdo. I love struggle, and like, I love stress, and I love challenges. So like, being able to be in an industry where you're constantly faced with like challenges and like, oh my God, this happened today, or this is, we're dealing with this now, or this is something that we're foreseeing in the future, and how do you combat those things? It kind of goes back to that like software engineering brain of like, how do we take these issues and how do we approach them in a strategic way, and with an operation, and plan that out so that we can have as much consistency as possible. So,
well, I think having that background too, you eliminate a lot of the magic and mystic that typically flows around the industry. Sometime that Mercury is rising and Jupiter is off doing this, and that's because things are great. If that, being able to take it back and say, hey, no, really, it's the data here. We did the following things and we got these results, so we want to do it again.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories and different ways of doing things, and this is proven science now, right? Like, this is something that like we know works based on, lots of research. And when you follow these steps and you follow these guidelines and set points and these procedures, that you will typically get pretty good results. Right now, there's outside factors that we can't help, right? There's ACs that go down, DHUs that go down. There's, catastrophic disasters that might happen. And, you'll always raise into those challenges. But for the most part, if the majority of the time you can stay consistent, you should see consistent results, and hopefully by looking at data and processing some of your old data, things that did happen well, and trying to repeat those things that, in the future, you can kind of predict where your success will be.
Exactly.
It's been a fun journey, because I think you and I started talking probably 2020, so about 5 years ago.
We did.
And right off the bat, you could tell I was like, all right, he's approaching this from a scientific perspective. But always really easy meetings. It's just like, all right, cool. What can we learn from the data today? And then I know you were Grower of the Month, featured on our website in 2021, and you and I did an interview about that time. So it's It's been really cool seeing you build a little empire. It's actually a pretty big empire right now, but and achieving the highest, some of the highest quality that we see at such scale. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I think it's because of us, right? It's the whole team effort always. I think the support that I've had from your staff and like everybody that's been around me, being able to like get things in, get things fast. Like if there's support, like seeing if there's ever a question, bang, like dude's right. Yeah, okay, sure. Like how can we help? Like he's right there. Francis has been really great. All of you guys have been like really good and really supportive. So I think having a really good support team around you has helped that a lot. And that started since day one, since that interview. It was, hey Jason, what do you think about this? Or having lots of like grow experience around, I think has just been tremendously helpful. And I think that people that are coming into the game, that are new, that aspire to be really good in this industry, really are able to see those things and run with them. And so the support I've had from the AROYA team, and then obviously the support I have from all the different staffs that I work with. I mean, I get to like oversee in a lot of these things, but none of this is possible if like those guys are on point.
100%. It seems like it's a huge part of your operational strategy at different places that you run, being able to keep a lot of this knowledge inside the institution, keep good people around, makes it so that you're able to make these operations run smoothly. And I don't think, a lot of places, if they don't have staff like that around, it just starts to get more and more chaotic over time. So keeping people like that, it speaks to, some of your quality as a manager as well.
Yeah, I think, I've always had like this approach, like, leaders grow leaders, right? Like we always want to be able to make sure that like we can take this, the people that really want this and help them grow in this industry. And, I think there's plenty of room for everybody to eat. Even with the market being this bad, there's still, if you really want it, and this is something that you really want to do, I mean, the tools are now there for you. We're in this age where software and technology is like so available that like, if you really want to utilize the things that are going to help there, you train the people to do that. And I think, empowering people as well to be able to say like, okay, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how we teach. If you go to my office right now, you're going to see AROYA graphs hand drawn on a board with what P1 shot size look like and what emitters and how much volume they are. And like the tools that are available, like I think I was in a wet room the other day and, they were like, how much water are we going to go through today? I was like, how about you tell me, right? Here's the irrigation calculator. You can go to AROYA's website, find the irrigation calculator. How many plants do you guys have in the room? What size emitters do you guys have? Okay, let's do some calculations. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're using 800 gallons a day. You know how much you need to refill now. So it's like, I don't want to be the guy that's going to sit here and just tell you how to do things. Like, let me show you how to get there. And then my job, which I really love now, and this is part of like me being able to run so many different places right now, is that I don't have to do the work for you. I'm here to coach you, to make sure that you're guiding and that you're following in that direction. And I'll monitor those things. And if I see something that's misdirected, we'll have a call, we'll make some adjustments, and there's really got to be a really good trust, right, between you and the people, because being on the road or not being always there, being able to say, hey, this is what it looks like, or upload a photo to the gallery and look at your harvest group and be able to look in the harvest group and say, like, here are the images, and assign them to the days, and we code them so that it's like, this is day 14 of flower and this is what it looks like, right? And then we can talk about that and say, yeah, plants look lush, they look green, there's no deficiencies, they're stretching really nicely, and start teaching what that looks like, and then teaching what that correlates to on the graph. Makes it a lot easier, because in 6 months, I don't really have to like go in there so hard anymore. Now they can call me and be like, hey dude, I saw this, I saw the leaves were curling a little bit and they seem like there's something going on, like that we had a little too much runoff. I logged it earlier and I noticed it's a lot higher than it is usual. Are we supposed to be in this range, or is the EC supposed to be at this range at this day? And then, we can make a decision as to like what adjustments we need to make. And so, yeah, empowering people and making sure that people have the guidelines and the knowledge they need in order to be successful, makes us all successful. So, I'm a huge fan of just making sure that like, not only are we just growing, but we're really just teaching and empowering people to like get better at doing this. Right?
I think last time I was here, you were saying like yeah, I got some employees that, they want to take my job, and I encourage them to do that. I
want them.
was like, yeah, that's awesome. Keep the competition up, get them trained all the way, and then you can keep doing other stuff too, right?
I want
keep pushing the envelope.
Please take my job. I'd love for them to take my job, because that means that they're putting in the work, that they'll get to a place where they're successful. And what'll happen is, as we grow, I don't want to ever hold anybody back. Like I don't want to see your face here in 2 years.
Nice.
I want to be in another facility where you're running it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you back. Like, because that means if you're becoming successful, we're all becoming successful, because you're going to do that for the next person, right? And we're going to keep that chain going. And all of a sudden we're building a very strong network, and we're all winning. And so, by all means, take my job.
I think it's incredibly important just dealing with the market. I mean, when we look at California and where the prices are at, and I've done this math, but basically it's that California grows on the equivalent of about 1.5 billion pre-rolls a year if you take all the weight.
Wow.
Well, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Right? So how do you rise above the noise, man? And the only way you rise above the noise is you got to have a higher quality product. Because if you're out there and everything's at a commodity level, right? We're all selling it. Let's say the rack rate is $650 a pack or $700 a pack. How am I getting 8? Well, you're getting 8 because you got better product.
Sure.
And we do better product because of all the SOPs and everything you put in place to make sure that top quality flower comes out of here every time. And people who buy from you are going, yeah, we want this because we know it's going to move off our shelves really fast.
Yeah. Consistency is key. It's like, how to keep consistency as much as possible. And, I really encourage, there's so many tools within like the AROYA platform, like so many tools. And yes, you can pick and choose which ones you need, but I think we were talking about this earlier where, harvest groups and being able to see data and be able to compare the data over end, right? So, I have conference calls with all of my different partners at all the different facilities, and every week review the flower, right? We have a call about what, the yield was, what the distribution's feedback was from buyers, what the smoke was like, what the color was like, what the nose was like, right? And before I even have that conversation, I'm pulling up past harvest groups of that same genetic and past harvest groups and the current harvest groups of that same genetic. And I'm looking at them to see if there's anything that was off, right? Did we have any issues? Did we have any AC issues? Were there any missed fees or something that would have caused stress? And I can kind of predict how those calls are going to go based on that harvest group run, right? I'm like, oh shit, this room, can I swear on here? If I did, sorry.
No.
Fuck no.
God damn it. But I can kind of know how that conversation is going to go based on the chart. So if I saw somewhere where oh no, they ran out of CO2 for a week and didn't get a refill, I can already expect that yield is going to be a little bit lower, and I can already kind of predict about what's going on. But it kind of gives me some feedback to give back to them, right? To say, hey, listen guys, a week is too long for CO2 to get refilled, right? We need to find a way to be more efficient. We need to find a backup company that can get this if that was an issue. We need to find a resolution to this issue so that the next time we don't have this problem again. So, but yeah, like you said, it's such a competitive market right now with prices being lower than, they've been in a long time. Being able to shoot a consistent product that people know what to expect definitely helps make sure that that price point will be there. And then also just efficiency, right? How efficient are we actually being in utilizing the tools that we have so that we can cut labor costs and we can cut nutrient costs and we can cut, the things that we need to cut in order to save money to be a little bit more profitable when we need to be and keep the company alive, right? So, efficiency, on all aspects, and I think the more people that are trained in a building that know what they're doing, that can spot a problem, the faster a problem can get fixed, the more efficient you become, the less time that is wasted on labor, less cost per pound goes down, more profitable you are. So it all plays a role together.
I think one of the most interesting things that I've seen from you over the last year and a half is that I get a call. I was like, hey, Brad, we just took over another facility. Hey, Brad, somebody called me and said, hey, I need to get a quote for some gear, right? So what I find the most fascinating about that is I would really like to hear, and I think everybody else would like to hear too, when you get that call from somebody that's hey, Mo, we want you to come in and either take my lease or help us grow more. What are you first going through when you walk into a brand new facility that somebody says, we need some help. We think, could you take it over for us?
Well, I think the first thing is how are you tracking what you're doing now, right? How are you able to see what your issues are? because if we're gonna have to tackle issues and you're struggling right now, we need to know what they are and as fast as possible, right? Like if 3 months in this industry goes by, you lose a lot of money. So it's okay. How are you doing that? Like, tell me where your pain points are. How do you know those are your pain points? How often do those things happen? How do you see that? Like, what are you controlling? How is that getting controlled? And then usually it's, we don't have any type of system that we're seeing, or we don't have the knowledge on how to use the system that we're actually using. So, I think that's why you probably get that call right away. It's like, let's get.
I'm not complaining.
let's get some data. Let's figure out.
Put the microscope over it, find out what's going on.
Let's look at the rooms. Let's look them on a deeper level. And then again, like, we know the guidelines, we know the set points. It's scientific data. That's it's not gatekept anywhere. It's articles everywhere, resources everywhere on how to do this the correct way now, right? It's what are you doing to make sure that we're monitoring those things so that we can keep them there and have as least as many of issues that we can possibly get. And so, my first call is like, let's get data in there, right? Like, we just took over 4,000 lights up in Adelanto, and struggling with weight. Well, what are you doing? Well, we don't know. Let's put sensors in there right away. And immediately we went from like 1.6 pounds of light averaging to like 2.9 pounds of like fire, right? And that happened within 3 to 6 months.
And on 4,000 lights, that's not a trivial amount of weight.
Yeah, with 3 employees that speak English. So I mean, it goes to show you how powerful being able to see like what it is that you can do. And those guys are booming. They're creating some amazing flower now. But yeah, the first thing was like, okay, I see VPD is an issue. I see we're either underfeeding or over irrigating, or we don't know, what phase the plants are living in right now. They don't know what day. It could have been day 40, it could be day 48. We don't really know. The strategy's changed. So, and it's a little bit more, and it's not to anybody's fault. I'd say it's hard, to run any size facility, a 400 light facility, a 200 light facility. It's hard, right? Like, no matter what, because there's things that are going to happen that are just going to happen and you have no control over, right? But, having an alert that says, yo, this room's getting too hot right now. And I'm able to text the team and be like, hey guys, this room's getting hot right now. I need somebody to go on deck, call somebody, get them there, see what's going on. And having an HVAC repair come there within a few hours, or at least early, or adjusting lights, or making the adjustments so that, the plants don't get damaged, is what ends up saving you money and saving your harvest. So, again, it just goes back to be able to make decision making like quickly based on the set points and alerts that you set. And so did a hose in the room bust, like that happens so often, right? Or something just didn't feed, right? The solenoid got closed because somebody was cleaning a valve and forgot about it, and not there, like it's going to happen, right? Like, it's not going to be 100%. It's going to happen. Like, I don't blame the guy for doing it. I know he's got 1,000 things that go on. I'm not perfect. Shit happens. Like, cool. Please remember to keep that valve open. He's on your daily checklist of things to do. Just make sure you check it again. But shit happens, right? But being able to like look at, get up, check my charts, looking at hundreds of rooms, but to quickly just see what the rest of the P1s are going up, but I see one zone that has a P1 going down. And I'm like, yo guys, I need you to go look at that zone right now. It didn't get its P1s. Go look at the valves, go look at the sensor, go look at the emitters, go look at the water room. Let's figure out this issue real quick. Let's get it back up to hydration. Let's keep the program rolling, right? And that seems to like make it a lot easier for everybody to communicate and kind of do things. And it's not sitting, I'd love to sit there and like say that like, every morning I have the time to sit there and like go through like every chart with like a microscope. After a while, you don't necessarily need to do that. You start learning what these graphs end up, what they start, I forget the word, but what they start looking like, right? And then after a while, you're like, okay, that doesn't look right. This is the wrong trend, right? How do we change that? We know it's this day of flower. It's got the wrong trend. Let's change that. And then I'll shoot it off to the notes. I'll take notes for each room to each client. And I'll say, hey guys, these are the changes that need to be made today. This is where our current set points need to be. This is where they currently are. I see there's a huge, curve in your humidity that is just going up and around rather than straight. It looks like there might be a DHU issue in that room. Please have your staff go check the DHUs. And they'll report back to me on the same kind of thing on a room list that say, okay, we checked, room 6. The extra dehu that we put in that room was not turned on. We turned it on. We're back in motion. Check that off the box, and we keep moving. So, I think you don't necessarily need to be like a wizard to sit here and like look at graphs all day and think it's like some crazy thing. After a while, you just kind of start looking at trends, and you're like, that's what it should look like. And then you start looking at the trends, and you start looking at the plants, and you're like, that's what my plants should look like after I do this. And then, for example, I had a big conversation with one of my teams the other days after their P1 shots. And I was like, guys, anytime you see your P1 shots and they start curving at the end, it means you're pushing a little too much water, right? Like, we don't want curving. Like, I want sharp lines, right? I always want to see a sharp line. If I see curving or flat lining, there's something going on. That means either we're overfeeding or your sensor placement's going on, or maybe the substrate became hydrophobic and now we need to reposition the sensor or something, right? And so, start looking for those little trends, right? And we can help fix these problems real fast. So, I think the more familiar you get with trends and what things look like, you don't have to be a graph master or anything. Like, you just start seeing things and they start helping you very quickly.
Trends are your friends.
Trends are your friends. Good. Trends are your friends.
Ironically, it's a lot like looking at your plants. Really what it is. The more that you look at it, the more that you get used to seeing what you expect to see and the identifying things that you don't expect to see.
For sure.
And at first it takes a lot of time. I mean, I used to spend, I was trying to spend 4 or 5 hours a week taking pictures of plants when I was growing. Mm-hmm. Really, the only reason I got to do that was because we have to be proactive enough using digital data that I kind of really got to learn the plants. Mm-hmm. So it was, for me, kind of the opposite of where most our clients are at, is where they're used to seeing those plants. But it's like, okay, maybe my node spacing is just slightly weird. Let's go back and look at the data and see what we can do next time. Boost the EC a little bit, stack just a little harder.
So I was so when I first got started growing with AROYA, I probably should still use this today, but I've grown most of the genetics that I've grown now for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm pretty familiar with how they should look. But any new genetics, I usually will do this with now. But when I first started, there's so many options in there where you can track internodal spacing. You can track stretch. So if you go in there with a measuring tape for 21 days, 25 days, and you can log the stretch, and then you can graph out the stretch. And then after a while, you start correlating what your EC trends are with how much internodal, if the shorter internodal spacing is, or you can look at your PPFD scale, right? And you can see if you've had stretch internodal spacing based on if you're graphing that data out. And so you can start comparing, here's the amount of light that I've been giving the plant. Here's the size of the internodal spacing. This is the amount of stretch that I was getting. And you do that over and over. You do that 15, 20, 30 times. And you start noticing okay, I see what's actually happening. Typically, it happens with, the set guidelines that, you have. But it gives you the ability to start manipulating things, right? Okay, maybe I want to stop this a little more. I want to boost a little more phosphorus and make these things blow up a little bit more. Maybe, and then kind of see what that does. And, it gives you, if you have the opportunity to play with those things, it gives you a world of opportunity to start
100%.
playing,
I think this is one of the reasons I was excited to do this episode with you, because it's always been clear you've always been kind of a problem solver. You like going out and finding out how to work your way through whatever challenges you guys are working on. And I think as a result of that, you've learned this system and how it's able to help you in managing not just the one facility, but all of these different facilities that you're with at this point. And you've been able to use it as a common language to teach all of your cultivators what to look for and how to speak that language of the plants. And I think that's one of the more difficult things for new cultivators when they're first starting out in the industry, is to learn to speak that language and to understand when they turn one of the dials, what it actually is doing to the plants in the room. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it would have been really difficult for you to get the consistent quality product that you get across all your locations and still be able to get the type of prices that you get if you're not able to have that seamless communication with everybody and able to teach everyone from the same baseline.
Sure. Yeah, I think, just like anything, you always want to speak the same language to your teams, right? And I think, going into a new facility or something that we've just taken over that doesn't have that established yet, being able to say, all right, first let's get some ground rules going, right? Let's have a conversation. Let's teach you guys just the intermediate. Let's teach you the alphabet, right? P1s, right?
Yep.
4 to 6%, right? With this size emitter, this is the amount of time that I expect for this. This is what your volumetric water capacity is for your size substrate. This is how long it would take to get to that substrate. By the time we want runoff, this is the amount that we need to push. These are going to be our targets for that runoff that we get, right? At the end of every day, or at the end of the P1 time frame, right? We have our P1, P2, P3. At the end of this time frame, and we know that it's going to take this long to feed the P1s. At the end of that time frame, this is what we should be expecting for runoff. This is what we should be looking at the EC. This is where we should be at as an environmental in the environment. And as soon as you can kind of start laying those groundwork and you kind of do the walkthroughs with the team on a weekly basis, after a while, I'd say 3 to 6 months, everybody starts kind of speaking the same language. And then I start getting the calls like, P1 didn't fire, or, we had an extra P1 and there's just too much runoff, or the EC is too low now. And, what can we do to adjust those things? And how do we get that back? And then, and I think, again, just like software and technology, helps you solve these issues, right? It's like, okay, now that you guys know what the terminology is and the SOPs are, speak that language back to me. Let's look at the stuff in the software, right? And then let's go back and readjust and get back on track. So, I think it's being able to, speak the same language, teach everybody that. And the biggest thing for me is just like education, right? Like how can we just educate? Like the more people know, the better off everybody is, right? Spend the time, not just focusing on growing weed, but focus the time growing people. Like if you can sit there and you can spend the time growing weed, you can spend the time and you can grow the people. And I guarantee you that your plants will reflect how you grow the people, right? I've always been told this, if you walk through any of my hallways, I know my team's first names, all of them, right? Like we have a good rapport. Yep. I know when their birthday is, right? I know what they did with their family last week. Like we talk, I genuinely care about my people. Yep. I want them to do well in life, not just work, but in life. And I think they see that and they have that same kind of attitude towards me as well, right? They're like, this guy actually cares about us. I'm not just here. I get bonuses. I have a bonus structure with my facilities that I give my bonus. I'd say about 75% of my bonus goes to the staff. I give that to them because they work their ass off for it. I made the deal, but they work their ass off for it, right? And so I want them to be able to win. And I think once they start seeing that, hey, we have an environment that we want to thrive in, there's going to be an environment where the plants want to thrive in, right? And so I think being able to create both those things, right? You're not just creating an environment for plants and just looking at you're creating an environment for people. And if you can create that environment and if you see a happy facility, you'll see happy plants. It's always the case, right? If you ever go into a facility that you see some sad people, those plants look sad.
Especially in the trim room. If you go to the trim room and the trimmers are happy, someone's doing something right at that facility.
I'll give you a great example. We were in a facility, unnamed. We'll leave them anonymous, but we walk in and they walk us through. And the guy at the facility was like, hey, man, what do you think? He said, I think I need to hire a consultant. And after looking around, I looked at it and I said, man, I think you need to grab a mop. You need to clean up and get everybody happy. And then you can go a long way from there. I said, I'm giving you that free. You don't have to pay me $100,000 to tell you that.
That was one of the first things I said to Mo today when we were walking through. I was looking around and I was like, man, it's always a predictor of how facilities are doing. If you walk in and the hallways are clean and organized and everything looks like it's got a home. Yeah. You walk into places that it's not. And
that's one of Mo's superpowers is staying organized.
Yeah, try.
You stay organized and you teach people how to use tools.
Yeah,
and it just lets them get more work done.
Yeah. Well, I when I first started Whipple Effect and Jack and the team, one of the first things that he taught me and that he brought into the grows that I loved and I still do to this day is gratitude meetings. And we do them every Monday morning with all my teams. And I thought there's two reasons why it's huge. One, we ask them what they're grateful for, right? Well, just a kind of a reminder of why are we even here, right? Why are we even alive doing this, right? So we need to remember what it is that we're grateful for and why we're doing these things. And the second thing is what would you change about the way that you work together, right, with us, right? How would you change things? What concerns do you have? And it gives us an opportunity to listen, right? Because like, I don't get to spend 40 hours a week on the floor. They do.
Yep.
They see it way more than I do. They know way more issues than I have. They see whether it's a people person issue, whether it's a plant issue, it's an equipment issue. They see it before I do, right? And it gives us an opportunity to sit there and actually have a discussion about like, okay, if I hear that same thing next week, I'm failing at my job, right? Like they told me this already last week and they're still complaining about the same thing and I've done nothing to take care of it. That means I'm failing. So it gives me an opportunity to hold myself accountable because I'm saying, hey guys, what do you need? Like, what's the problem? Where are your pain points? Where are your issues? And again, if you can solve those little things or at least have a plan and pursuit to say, hey, we're going to figure out a way to get there. And like, I really appreciate your feedback. And like that concern is very valid. I want to make your job easier. You get pretty happy people. You know?
Yeah, especially when you can empower them to make the changes themselves. Like, hey, look, man, go take care of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're a smart guy. I hired you because you're smart. So go, like, I'm good with it.
Oh, I make mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
I'm great at making mistakes.
Oh,
I'm amazing.
me too.
I'm amazing at it. Somebody called me this morning and they said, hey, you know, the room that you said to buck and trim still feels a little wet like a little more wet than we thought it would. Like, it doesn't feel that wet to me. I was like, bro, you've been in this game for 15, 20 years. You know what great product feels like. You tell me when it's ready to trim. You know, and I don't need to tell you those things. You know what great product looks like. You tell me. You know, and like, I think that develops a trust and like this, hey, I'm not here as a consultant. I'm not here as your boss. Like, we work as a team. Like, we are all here together on the same mission, and that's to grow some fucking fire. You know, all of us. And once I think we realize that everybody around us has the same approach and that same mentality, everybody's in it to win it, right? So.
Yeah, I think what I like to look at it is like, okay, all this fire and everything we're growing, you know what that is? That's a proxy for cash. These plants and everything that we do is a proxy for stacks in the room. And that's what we're doing. And the more stacks we can put, the more we can give out. And that's going to, like, people are going to be happier because we're improving everybody's lives that go along with it in the grow. And, you know, when we go in these grows and people aren't making any money, it does make for some long faces because it's long days, right? And it's the same amount of work, whether you're going
pay your people.
Yeah.
Pay your people.
Exactly.
Pay your people.
Don't be cheap.
Pay your people. It's like, if they're taken care of, you will be taken care of. Pay your people. Don't be late. Pay your people.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's how would you be able to manage so many places and get that level of product without being able to trust your staff implicitly like that?
It's impossible.
You know, I mean, you can't be every place at once. You can't be the person micromanaging all these various little aspects. No. So if you want to be successful with that level of scale, you have to be able to, sure, you know, have a solidly trained team underneath you that you can trust and that you can be like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to be there with you to make that decision. So I'm going to trust you to make this call. And, you know, if we have to talk about it later, we'll figure it out and we'll make a, you know, game day decision. But until then, if you're able to trust your people to make good decisions independent of you, then you're able to keep focusing on growing the empire, so to speak.
I had a guy from Michigan last week call me, and we were talking about building out new grows or acquiring new grows. And he's like, I got a weird question to ask you. He's like, would you rather have somebody on the team, like a head grower that's completely green and knows nothing about weed, that you could teach everything to, or would you rather have somebody with experience that knows what weed looks like, you know, that might have their own ways? And I was like, I want the guy with experience. He's like, why? I was like, experience is something you can't teach, right? Like, it takes time to develop those things. Like, this stuff I can teach, right? Like, I can teach the graphs. I can tell you what to look for. And you know, my approach is not in a way to come in here and like say, like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Like, my approach is, let's see what you're doing, right? Like, let's find out what it is that you're doing, and we'll make corrections. Because I've talked to those guys, and like, you know, and you know, you never want to come into someone's house and offend them and say, hey, everything you've ever been doing is wrong, because it's probably not. It probably just needed some tweaks, right? And they'll start saying, hey, this is like what my programs look like for this week through this week. I'm like, cool, I have a very similar approach, but let's graph it. Let's look at the plants, and let's see if those things are correlating to what we want them to do. And if they're not, then we start tweaking so that they do, right? But that person's going to know how to scout. They're going to know what to look for bugs. They're going to know when the plant looks different, when they don't look happy, right? So, you know, do I want somebody that's completely green? Like, I don't mind it. Like I'll definitely train and coach, right? But as far as like somebody that's in a lead position, like I want somebody that I can trust, that knows what deficiencies look like, that like knows the plants aren't happy, that isn't afraid to call me and be like, dude, you're messing up. Like I see something's going on. Like, cool, show me what it is that you got going.
And I think, man, there's a, like kind of like what you said, there's an intangible aspect to experience that you can't necessarily give someone.
Yeah.
And some of it's, the things that they've picked up along the way as a result of running into situations. And some of it's an attitude that you find in anyone who's had a little experience in cultivation that still wants to be doing it.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's always ego in play, right? For sure. Yeah, but I think ego goes away when everybody's successful.
Yep.
Right? Like I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not like I don't like we need to work
100%.
together. Like we need to work together. Like
Yep.
there's issues and we're not hitting weight and something is going on in this facility. We need to sit down, take your experience and take my experience, and let's brainstorm and let's figure this thing out. But we can only do that if we can see what's happening, right? And if you can't tell me what you've done on a repetitive basis or show me that you've actually done this, how can you tell me it works? Right. Show me that works. Show me the last 4 harvest groups. Show me the results. Can you show that to me? I can't believe you until we do this, right? Until there's a scientific method that says we've done this enough, that we've had proven track record, that we've had the data that shows this. And now we're looking at this and saying, okay, that wasn't successful, or like, great job, right?
Yep.
One of the two.
Yeah, and you have the numbers to substantiate it and be like, here's what we're doing next time, guys, and here's why.
Yeah. Yeah. We're tweaking this. We saw what happened here. Here are the pictures that correlated with it. We can look through every day in the harvest group and we can say, here's what's happening with the EC. I'm not just telling you stuff I made up or that I think is right? Like this is proven stuff. So
it's kind of interesting when I first started onboarding people, I was very adamant that they didn't make any changes during the first run. I was like, all right, get the sensors in there. I hope you get the sensors in there. And anymore, it's so hard because people get so excited about like perfecting it that they're like,
sure.
I don't want to wait 3 months to do some of this stuff. And so
patience is one of those things you learn growing weed. For sure. Yeah.
It is.
But yeah, I'm with you 100% on that same point. Like, put them in. Let's see what's happening, right? And then we'll make those adjustments. And another thing that I've heard a lot too is, before I start working with somebody, that I've got AROYA, but all of a sudden, like I don't know what's like going on. Like I got it, and like my grow is supposed to change. It's like, bro, no. Like we still need to make decisions. Like we still need to learn what it is that AROYA is saying, right? Like now that you got it, at least we have some kind of baseline to start. But like it's not going to come here and magically make you grow more fantastic weed. It's just not, right? Like we're going to do that by being able to show you like what those set points are and the support. Like you're going to have to get on the calls with Jay. You're going to have to get on the calls with the right people, right? And be able to actually like listen and implement. It's like, oh, I talked to him, like, well, did you implement it? Okay. We look at the graph, we're like, no, P2s don't go on at 5 or P1 time,
That's a great point. I think these guys will tell you our biggest frustration is, we've done thousands of grows, right? I mean, we've seen more grows than most people can imagine. And we know what works. And it's so frustrating to get in with people going, okay, here's what we see. This is what the data is telling us. We're 60 days in. This is what you need to do different the next time. And we can, like, these levers we can pull can make a big difference. And then we go in and like 3 weeks into the next cycle, it's like, you didn't pull any levers. Like what are you doing? And like, there's going to have to be some change to happen to affect change. And so
I think it goes back to your point. It's like speaking the same language, the education of like, okay, these are the levers. Like, this is why you change it. This is when you change it. And I think like, that's why I get up early every morning. I'm about 3 hours before most of my facilities are even open, and I'm sending them notes by the time they get there of like, okay, this is what I see. This is what you got to change. This is what I want you guys to look for. At the end of the day, report back to me and, make sure that those, another partner of mine up in Adelante, he's, when we first started working together, he's like, growing weed is not like one of these things that happen. I know we talk about weeks of flower and different changes over different weeks, but growing weed is like an everyday, like change, right? Like it's an everyday monitor, and sensors can get offline, or not offline, but miscalibrated, and they're not reading the correct, right? And just so you guys know, and this is not just to boost any of you guys or anything, but the most success I've always had is when my VP targets have always matched AROYA's environmental. So no matter what other system I've used, and I use lots of other systems, I always try to make sure that I manage those systems to AROYA's sensors. And the other thing is just knowing good placement in the rooms. I think that's a really big success, a thing that's been helpful with success. I know that you guys have been on site. Francis will come on site, and he'll kind of just help make sure that those things are in the right places, especially in some of these double or triple stack tier facilities, and understanding how airflow works in those rooms, and like putting sensors in the right place to see what's actually happening, on different heights of the rooms. So, for anybody that's out there that has AROYA, reach out to the people that know this stuff and make sure they utilize those things, because it works. You just have to make sure that you're getting guided and set up in the correct way, so that those things are reflecting. Recently, and I know we talked about this, I think, in Vegas, the integrations that you guys have made too on your software has been huge, right? Like all the open sprinkler integrations, I know Rhythm. I forget the other one. Argus, yeah. There's a huge amount of integration. So it's that's a really cool thing since our last interview. Like since we did this, in 2020 or 2021, is the amount of integrations and the way, like the development in the software, and the amount of tools that have been added now, the dryback features, the runoff features. Like there's so much more available now. Like it was cool then. Now it's really crazy. Like it's crazy what you can do. So like to be able to give yourself an excuse to not say that you can't do it. It's really not an option. Like the tools are there, it's just you gotta, either hold yourselves accountable or have somebody that can hold you accountable, and really just start taking the decision to start utilizing that as much and learning as much as you can, because it works. Right?
Well, you gotta start somewhere, right? Yeah. So it's if you're wondering, how to gain these skills and get into it, sometimes you just gotta, if you have the opportunity to be in a facility, start looking into what these things mean, do a little homework, a little research, and start to understand what a lot of these tools are helping you be able to do. Yeah. And I don't know, I think that it seems like a lot of times when I talk to you stands out as one of the competitive advantages you have in this area compared to a lot of cultivators. You tend to, like you said, kind of push on teaching your staff as a major piece of what you feel like your role is in your organization. And I think having that be the thing that you're pushing on, trying to educate your staff and make sure that they're well trained and that they at any point in time could rotate into a position and be able to be successful inside the grow. That seems like a huge piece of why you're able to function at the scale that you're at and have that level of success. And I don't know, I always like to kind of point that out, because it seems like a common thread with a lot of cultivators that are still being successful in this market. And I'm sure we've said it a handful of times today, and we'll keep saying it probably, but the market's extremely competitive, especially in LA. Mm-hmm. So for you to be able to keep consistent success at the scale that you are in the level of competition that the market has for you here, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
So I think you're definitely doing something right and hitting on a couple of really key pieces to a successful operation there.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I'll go back to the people I'm with, right? It's back on the people, and I think when you said that, I don't want to be the only person in the room that understands what's going on. I don't I'll never get better, right? I want people to be able to see it and be like, hey, you're doing this wrong. I love when they do that shit, because then I'm like, you really care, you're paying attention. Tell me I'm wrong. Find that place and be like, you're not doing this right, Mo. I would love that, right? And it happens, right?
I love learning from other people. Sometimes I get a little embarrassed, but
I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. No, if I'm the smartest person in the room, something's wrong.
We're in the wrong room, right? We want everybody around us to be able to challenge us, right? And so, and again, I love the challenge. Like I said, I don't want to be stagnant ever. Whether it's my career or my personal life, I just don't want to be stagnant. I want to be able to find a way, metaphorically, to keep growing, right? And I think it's I think it's important for people to be like, hey, Mo, I actually did it this way this round, and I saw better results this way this round. And I was like, let's rock with your way. You showed me that it worked based on like that and what you did, and it worked. I love that. Let's keep rolling, right? Like you did what was right. You tracked the data. You saw the results. Like you proved it. You're right. Let's keep rolling.
It's pretty important to isolate the variables when that happens too.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's cool that you enable them to be able to do that, to isolate the variables, because so many times I've worked with, and not as much anymore, but in the past it's like, oh, we're doing this because of this, and it's like, well, there's a side effect to that that's actually causing that result. And
for sure,
it's good to make sure that is the impacting variable.
Well, there's lots of tools that are available. I think being able to graph your light, right? So you guys have the light meters that can go on top of your canopy, right? To be able to like look at the amount of U-moles that are delivered to the plant over the plant's life and during this light cycle. What does EC look like at that plant stage, or that, the day of flower that it is, and how does that correlate? Stretch, being able to record stretch and seeing how that correlates, being able to manipulate those things. I have guys that are growing in 4-foot double stacks. I have guys that are single tier where they have, 10 feet of canopy space or, vertical space where they don't have to worry about that. So being able to track, what's getting delivered to the plants, and how to be able to manipulate those things to work in that environment. And then repeat that again. So, to be able to look at a harvest group on a historical graph over time, and then see the light, see CO2, see, VPD, see the change in environment, see the change in humidity, look at irrigation, look at EC levels. Are they actually, stacking? Are we bringing it back down? Are we matching what we need to do? Are the strategies in the right place? And being able to measure off of that. And, if something doesn't work, then we get, be able to look at where it didn't work and, find the reasoning why, of saying like, yeah, okay, maybe you didn't give enough PPFD at this time. And, we saw a little bit more stretch than we should have, or, the EC was too low and it didn't stack correctly, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, being able to go back and dissect things is priceless. And I think if you want to be really good at something, you spend a lot of time doing it over and over and over again. So.
It's like the hours and hours of football film that we watched every Saturday after a Friday night game.
It's a repetitive process, but it's like, if you can keep the guidelines the same, it's like, how do you stop the little things that, that interrupt those processes, right? And that's the thing with part of growing is, and you start teaching people what those things are and how to see those, and you're in the game. Right?
What is it? 10,000 hours to mastery.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes time.
It takes time.
You gotta have a butt in the seat and get it done.
Yeah. And people talk about like, how long have you been growing? And I've been doing this 5-6 years now. And I back to the ego conversation where somebody has been doing this for 20 years, I was like, well, yeah, maybe you got 6 harvests, 5-6 harvests a year. I've done about thousands, in that amount of time frame. So, I've repeated this nonstop all the time, and I've seen these things constantly, and I've seen what the plants look like and how they correlate. And it's just practice, right? You got to put the time in, right? I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm just saying that I spent a lot of time doing it, right? And I've seen these things over and over and over again. And usually when I see those things, this is how it correlates. And I
think that's one of my favorite things about talking to you is whenever I talk to you, you are making all these observations and paying really close attention to all the little points and pieces of your operation. And, a lot of people that I have talked to over the years and that I meet in the cannabis industry, they put themselves in that I am the only person with the knowledge position that we've been kind of bashing on a little bit today. And when that happens, it just becomes only their responsibility to be able to notice or be able to understand and communicate those issues across the facility to other people who are going to be taking care of them. And it's always fun talking to you because you've always approached these things from a standpoint of, well, maybe I'm wrong. And there's a lot of people out there that don't do that kind of just go straight forward with whatever assumption that they've made and don't question whether or not they're reading a situation correctly. And every time I've talked to you, you've always kind of put a little more weight on looking at the data, substantiating whatever it is that you're looking at, and then getting a second opinion that actually also, may not be the same as what you were looking at. But being able to question yourself and to be like, am I making the right decision here? Do I have data that backs up what I'm deciding to do? Mm-hmm. And then teaching that attitude to other people as well, because I think that has really helped, especially with the people that you've got in your organizations, kind of foster an attitude that makes it so that they want to ask, am I right? Am I making the right decision? Rather than just jumping straight into turning the knob and seeing what happens.
Sure. Yeah, I don't, I don't ever want to claim or think that I'm the best out there. There's so many talented people in this industry that are just amazing at what they do. And, I like being able to say that, like, I just like to learn, right? Like, I want to be just to say, hey, you know what? I'm open. Like, I want to learn. I want to get better. I constantly, like, thrive. I don't think that, like, there's so many people that have been doing this for so long, and there's a lot of experts in this field that are in plant sciences that are just amazing at what they do. And, I'm all ears, right? Like, and then, there's guys like you guys that specialize in sensor data and software that, I'm constantly, like, trying to figure out a way of, like, what do I need to learn and how do I get better? And I know that, like, it's like we talked about, it's the hours, right? Like, and there's so many different variables in the industry of, like, whether it's the software that you're putting time in, or if it's the rooms that you're putting in time, or it's the plant work or the cloning process or whatever it is. Each of those processes require lots and lots of time. And so, I may have put in some time, on this certain aspect here, but there's still a lot of time that needs to get focused on maybe this aspect. And so, the people that have put the time in, I'm all open ears, and I just want to hear more, learn more, like, how do we overall get better, and how do I take that information, how do I relay that back to my teams, and how do we implement those things that it works and how we see the results with, and how do I track that to make sure it worked? And, it's kind of that process of how do we keep mapping this so that we can kind of see it cycle back.
Iterative changes, man. It's the preach. It's what we tell people every time we get on the phone. Yeah. And it's awesome talking to you because you're one of our great success stories in that regard. You know what I mean? Starting out from the point where you jumped on with your first facility looking at AROYA to where you're at today. I mean, it's kind of like we were talking about the other day. You were able to scale to this point because you're able to leverage the amount of time in your day, and without having a tool that you can lean on to do that, sure, it wouldn't be possible. So it's always awesome kind of, getting to have a chat with you, because it's a great example for people both that are, wanting to get into the industry, or other cultivations that are out there right now that are trying to figure out how to level up their game, or how to, maybe expand, or that are just trying to stay relevant in a competitive industry. And I think that your strategy in that regard has really been holding the test of time. And it seems like some of the biggest things that I hear from you, consistency, making sure everyone's on the same page, everyone's educated to the same level with the same tools, and making an environment that you feel like, and that your employees feel like they want to come to work every day and they want to put in the work to be able to make the best product they can. I don't know. I love talking to you about these things, because there's so many people out there that get stuck in the weeds, so to speak, when they're trying to figure out, how to run a successful business. And it, might sound a little cliche, but taking care of your employees seems like one of those biggest things that you have put the head of the column. And whether that's in education, paying them well, keeping them happy at work, you have, you've got a culture that makes people want to show up for you. And then by providing them a level of education that's able to keep them successful and keep them making consistent product, you guys, like Jason said, have been able to expand into a little empire down here.
Yeah, I was working with a facility out in Oklahoma for the last 3-4 years, and it's to a point where I'll glance at their graphs every day, but they do the steering, they know what's going on, and people always are like, "Are you not worried about your job?" I said, "Take my job, please," because what will end up happening, and this is currently happening now, is that facility becomes on cruise control. They start becoming successful, and now they're looking for their next build out, right? And now we're working on that next project to get the next place to do that. And then soon after that, it'll happen with the next place. And so, you know, the game is long term, right? Like, how do we keep growing this, and how do we keep this, you know, again, consistent, successful, keep people happy, right? And we want everybody to grow with us. And then you'll see that in a lot of the successful grows, that most of the staff that's there now is the staff that's kind of been there for a while, right? Like, they don't kind of go, like, they kind of grow with the company. And so, you know, I've seen the guys that I've started as, you know, maybe like just a you know, a gardener turn into a lead grower that's now helping consult on their next project, right? And, you know, and as they start getting on these next projects, they start calling me to be like, hey, I want to bring you in to get, you know, this place set up, and start getting that. And then you start seeing them grow, and like they get their little mini empire going. And, you know, it's cool to see. It makes me really, really happy to see like people that really, really want something that they want to keep going and kind of expand into their, see their future, like, you know, developing. So I think I find a lot of personal joy in seeing, you know, people really like develop their work and their future. So.
Same here. Well, as much as I want to keep going, I think I should probably bring us around for a close. Mo, it's been an awesome talk today. I think I mean, anytime I get to have a chat with you, I love it. So being able to come down and have a chat in person in the facility has been a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing your facility insights and your insights on, well, how to be the master of your own cannabis empire down here. For anyone that's out there in our audience today, please give AJ's Flower Co. a follow. We'll throw the social up on. And Mo, how can people reach out if they want to learn more from you?
They can shoot me an email. You guys can put my email in the comments or something like that. Yeah. You can also hit up AJ's Flower Co. I can put my information down there if you guys want.
You still up on Instagram?
I don't have Instagram anymore. I actually had to take it away because there's too many business inquiries.
It's getting too hot.
So I don't have social media anymore. Yeah, it just, you know, helps me focus on other things right now. But I'll give you guys contact info. You guys can reach out in there. Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys and your time. Thank you guys for coming out here. It's super exciting to have you guys out in LA. I always love seeing you guys. I feel like the hour goes by so fast that way we didn't even talk about everything.
Like I said,
where'd it go?
it's always the worry that we're going to end up, you know, overtime rather than undertime. At least when we're talking to someone like you, that's the case for sure.
That's much appreciated.
Well, one last question for you, Mo. What's your favorite flavor right now?
Favorite flavor? Ooh, that's a good one. Oaksterdam OG, we got growing at AJ's. I like the pie scream that we have at Bowery Green. That one's super fire.
I agree.
We got the Lulu at CA 420 up in Adelanto. We got the candy gelato up at Gen X and Nuco in Adelanto. There's a lot of them. So those are the ones that are probably
those are your picks right now. What you're reaching for?
Yeah, there's a good mix of variety in there.
I just love hearing that OG is making a comeback. I mean, I know a lot of the cultivators tend to favor some of those legacy genetic strains a little bit, but I mean, seeing them dot a corner of a room here and there as I've gone into facilities more and more, it just makes me happy.
Yeah. It's cool. I think variety's coming back, and it's you know, I'm happy to, as a grower. I think it's just way more fun when, like, again, you start seeing different things, right?
Instead of 9 rooms LCG.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all room the same candy strain that are doing the exact same thing every day. It definitely makes my job easy. Like, it makes my job way easier. But again, you know, it gives you some challenge, and, you know, you get to see some different flavors and have a little more fun. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Gromies. Let's see you guys next time on our next episode of Office Hours. We're going to be coming at you from LA on a series this week. We'll end up having a couple more episodes with a few cultivators like Mo, and can't wait to see you guys in the next episode.